Hey there, it's Jason Mefford. I wanted to jump on here and do a video and ask you a couple of questions about being a leader. The first one is, are you an inclusive leader? Now, I'm sure, if you're like most people, you're probably sitting there saying, well, of course I'm inclusive, right? I'm all about that. But you might not be as inclusive as you think you are. Now, how do I know that? Because as humans, we tend to gravitate towards people that are like us. We do this subconsciously, whether we realize it or not, right? It's just a fact of life. Now, as a leader, right, you're expected to be better than everybody else. So you can't say, I'm human, I can make mistakes, I can be a jerk. Nope, you can't do that, right? And so why am I bringing this up? Well, because what we are finding, especially now, as we kind of move into a new normal in how we are leading people, how we are actually operating as businesses, there's a lot of people out there that feel a little different. Maybe they feel like they're a little weird. Maybe they feel like they're a little quirky. Okay. And really, aren't we all a little different, a little quirky as well? And so as a leader, how can you be more inclusive and actually serve better the people that are under you? Now, we'll go through and talk a little bit about that right now, because again, as I'm talking about inclusion, if I say diversity, I know again, a lot of times your subconscious mind is going to go to one particular area. Okay, now there's some really easy ones to think about here, right? Obviously, the color of someone's skin is something that you can see, right? So if somebody is different than you, maybe if they have a different skin color, that's easy to recognize. If somebody maybe is of a different gender than you are, again, that's easy to pretty much see. But are those the only ways that we're actually different? Nope, right? There are a lot of ways in which we can be different, and in which we may feel like we're not accepted or included in what's going on. And so again, what can you do? Well, again, as we are looking at the way that we work, right? So historically, maybe somebody has said, somebody with a physical disability, they just can't work here, because if they're in a wheelchair or they can't do some of that stuff, then they really can't do the job. Well, is that really true? I don't think so, right? For a lot of the jobs that are out there now, there's a lot of people that historically may have gotten looked over and thought, well, that person can't really do the job, right? And it's not because I have anything against, people with a disability, but, they really can't do the job, right? Sometimes we try to rationalize that as well. And I'm here to tell you, that's not the way we should be now. It's not the way that we need to be. It's not the way that we should be. And it's not the way that we have to be either, right? Because there's a lot of things that people with different abilities can bring to your team. In fact, again, lots of research has been done on this, that the more diverse your team is, the higher performing it's actually going to be. So again, as a leader, start to look at the people that are around you. Are all of the people around you just like you are? Are they of the same skin color? Are they the same age approximately, right? Because again, there's another thing that sometimes people don't think about. And I was, this was part of my experience. I became a corporate executive very early when I was much younger. And so the reality was my peers in organizations were 20 or 30 years older than me. And so I always got that, oh, Jason's a little kid, he doesn't really know what he's talking about. Did that make me different than everybody else? You bet it did, right? So sometimes age as well can be something that is different. Now, why are we talking about this? Because as a leader, I already told you before, you don't get a hall pass for this. You can't say, well, I'm just human, right? I can allow myself to have all of these different blind spots and subconscious biases that other people have. You really cannot afford to say that, right? You have to be better than that, because you want people on your team to feel included. So what does that look like, right? Well, some of it might be actually reaching out, hiring people that are different than what you normally hire. So again, that could be even things like, hey, I live in a remote part. I'm here taking care of aging parents. I don't want to move to your corporate headquarters in New York or Los Angeles or wherever, but I still want to work for the company. Well, are you going to be a leader who is inclusive and actually include people like that in your team? Choice is up to you. But what I'm going to tell you is you don't have control like you think you have as a leader. In fact, I was talking with a group this week, and one of the people on there felt like he wanted to have control over his people. And the problem was that he really wanted to have control, right? And the problem is, here's a reality that I'm just going to be honest with you. And when I say this, you're going to scrunch up your face and you're not going to probably believe me to begin with. I don't care, because this is a fact, okay? You don't have control as a leader, okay? You don't have control as a leader. Now, a lot of people think they do. They say, well, I control people's compensation. I can do this. I can do that. I can make them do things. The problem is people end up confusing, okay, the control with I can manipulate or coerce someone to do something. That's not what a leader does. A leader instead uses persuasion and influence. Those are two different things, my friends. And so at the end of the day, you don't have any control over what other people may do, okay? You can persuade, you can influence, and I'll tell you, the better you get at being able to do that, but ultimately you realize the choice is the other person's. You cannot make the choice for them. That's just a fact of life, okay? Now, why am I talking about this now? Well, this week on the Jamming with Jason podcast, we got in and we're talking more about diversity, inclusion, and equity. Now, all of my podcasts, we kind of go where we feel like we need to go. That wasn't where we intended to go when we hit record and started doing it, but it's a message that people need to hear. And so that's why it's in there. At the end of the day, it went, wow, we actually talked about diversity, inclusion, and equity along with ESG, which wasn't quite where we were expecting to go. So why am I on here telling you about this? Well, because this is important. It's something that, again, we can see large trends that are going on in the workforce. And as a leader, these are things that you need to be aware of. You need to be more inclusive, as I talked about at the beginning of the video. You need to start looking for other people that are different than you are to be able to make a stronger and more diverse team. And I'm talking about being inclusive in all of the different ways, okay? I'm not just talking about skin color or anything like that. I'm talking about creating a truly diverse team, okay? That's one thing that you need to be doing. You need to also, be more equitable. Now, what I'm going to talk about here, again, goes against the grain of what a lot of people think they need to do as a leader. And that is, they sit there and they say to themselves, I have to treat everybody exactly the same. That's the way to be fair. That is not the way to be fair and equitable. In fact, as a leader, you are going to have to learn how to do things a little bit differently for different people. Why? Because people are in different situations in their life. And as a result of that, they deserve to be treated a little bit differently. Okay. And again, so you have to look at that and decide, well, how am I going to do that? Well, the old command and control leadership is dead, folks. Okay. You can keep thinking that you're going to do that and you're going to treat everybody the same. And I'm going to create a policy and damn it, everybody's going to do it exactly the same way. That isn't going to work for you. The reason why power has shifted from the corporations, from the organization to the employees. People can leave much easier now, and they will if they don't get what they think is fair. And again, to lots of different people, that's going to be some different things. And so again, why am I bringing this up? We talked about it more on the podcast. Go over there. I've got a link down below where you can actually listen into that entire episode and then start asking yourself some questions. You know, look at those blind spots, ask yourself some of those questions and see, are you really as inclusive as you need to be? What are some things that you can do this next week to actually become more inclusive, become a better leader, one who uses your intuition more, is actually more in tune with your emotions and the emotions of the people that you're dealing with. That's why I'm on here preaching the word, my brothers and sisters, so that you can go out. And again, as I'm telling you, leadership is changing. And if you continue to hang on to the old command and control leadership, you're not going to be a leader for very long. And your life is going to be much less stressful when you actually learn things like intuitive leadership. How do you do that? Neural influence. How can I actually influence people subconsciously and use the brain as ways to help persuade them instead of telling them, you must do this or you will be fired? That's not leadership. Telling somebody that they have to do something or you're going to fire them, that's not leadership. That's being a supervisor. Okay. And again, for many of you, you're already past that in your career. So quit doing that if you are. So with that, I'm going to wrap up now. There's some other stuff I got to take care of today, but go over, check out that episode of Jamming with Jason and check in because, again, we got 2 episodes dropping each week. More information on how you can be a leader and a lifelong learner from the inside out. And there's so many places I can go on this, but today we're just trying to keep it to the inclusion, diversity, and equity area. So go check it out.